Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So today, I'm going to answer viewer questions about Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. And we're going to get to the bottom of some of the mysteries and misspell some of the rumors and falsehoods that are out there when it comes to the final resting places for JJ and for Tylee. And I'm going to give you the actual facts about what Lori and Chad are actually looking at when it comes to a possible jail sentence if found guilty on the two charges that they both have levied against them in Idaho right now. And thank you for joining me today. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the charges that are currently levied against Chad and Lori. Now, both of them are facing 2 felony counts each. And if found guilty on both charges, they would end up doing just about the same amount of time if found guilty of second-degree murder. Yes. Let's look at Chad first. Chad, on the conspiracy charge. And you need to make sure you understand this completely. When it comes to conspiracy, they have to list someone who is the main conspirator of the crime, and they may list additional people as secondaries to the conspiracy. And it's the same charge, but there's a sentencing guideline that is different for the minimum and maximums on them. Chad, being the main conspirator, would get 20 years on that one charge alone if given the maximum. On the second count, alter to conceal evidence or destroy evidence, he would be looking at 10 years. Now, Lori Vallow, on the conspiracy, listed as the second conspirator to that crime, she would be looking at 10 years on that charge. And then on the alter concealment, there is no minimum maximum difference between first or second on that one. It's 10 years. So Chad, if found guilty and given the maximum, 30 years. If Lori is found guilty and given the maximum on both, she would be looking at 20 years. The question, one of the additional questions that I got about this was, what is the state average for someone who is convicted of these 2 charges in the state of Idaho? Now, first off, for her to answer that is almost impossible, because first they must look at the circumstances of the actual crime itself. That would determine the amount of time and how severe of a crime. Because you can be, someone who works in an office, selling life insurance, and your boss told you to shred a bunch of documents, and you did it knowing that these documents would be damning to the company. You could be charged with alter to conceal destruction of evidence. Should you get 10 years when your boss is the one who actually committed the crime, but you aided and abetted on that? Should you have to go to prison for 10 years? Well, that is the difference why there's no difference on that charge. It doesn't matter. There's no first or primary on that one, secondary on that one. Chad, again, throwing out all that and the possibilities of everything else out there. If given the maximum, 30 years. The average is 15 and a half years is the average in the state of Idaho where murder charges are involved. Now, they could determine through the process of the court and the proceedings that Chad was very egregious in his actual acts and what he did, and they may come up with evidence and it says, wow, he was guilty of a lot more, which would change the sentencing guidelines, and he would most likely get a lot more time than less time. 30 years is the maximum. 15 and a half is the actual average on that one charge, those charges there in the state of Idaho. Lori Vallow, again, since she is the secondary on the conspiracy, the maximum is 20 years. The average is 12 years for both of her felonies. Again, just like Chad. So, if found guilty, Chad 15 and a half years, Lori 12. Would it be worth it to the state of Arizona at that point if they are able to prove actual murder charges against Chad, against Lori for the death of Charles Vallow? Would the state of Arizona want to put up the budget, the money, the finances, the resources to charge her, have her extradited back to Arizona from Idaho, and charge her with murder? And what could they possibly hope that the charge would be in this crime? Would it be first degree, manslaughter, second degree, involuntary manslaughter? What would they actually be able to prove and convict her of? Along with, was there any involvement from Chad in any of it? We don't know. I mean, it doesn't look like there is, but we don't know. So, Arizona is most likely sitting back and they're going to await the outcome of the Idaho case, before the state of Arizona files anything. Because it would also sway Lori and Chad from wanting to take any kind of plea deal in the state of Idaho. Maybe Lori will roll over on Chad. She's rolled over on everybody her entire life and used everybody as an scapegoat for one reason or another her entire life. So will she roll over on Chad? We don't know. But she definitely would not roll over on Chad, and nor would Chad roll over on Lori, or if the state of Arizona files murder charges against them, because they would be looking at that on top of it all. This following part contains information that is graphic in nature and may be disturbing to some of the viewers of this channel. If you wish to turn it off now, I wish you a good day and stay safe out there. The following part, I'm going to be talking about the final burial places of JJ and Tylee, and what is factually evident at this point due to releases from statements from detectives who were there that day, along with statements that they have said publicly to reporters from East Idaho News, along with Idaho Channel 5, ABC. First, let's look at JJ's burial. JJ was buried in a spot that was near the retaining pond area, about 7.5 feet from his sister. His remains were found in a shallow grave. Underneath, after removing the Bermuda grass and Fiscal grass, along with a thin top layer of dirt, there was a strand board that may have been pieces of a inside paneling that would be used in a home in the 1970s. And that was a thin board that was placed next. Then as we're going down through the layers, next was more soil, thinner, about 6 to 8 inches at the head, and about a foot of soil down near the feet. Now, this is a 4-foot by 6-foot grave area that was dug up to find the remains of JJ. Next layer, underneath the dirt, were 3 large rocks. The largest rock was approximately 2.5 feet in diameter and had a white powdery coat on it that may have been paint. I'm sure they have sent that powdery residue out to be examined to find out what it is, but it was most likely paint. There were other large rocks similar to this rock, flat in nature and round, that were found in and around among the head area and upper chest. There were other rocks that were piled up on the body towards the torso and the lower extremities, feet, ankle area. Digging down underneath the rocks, another fine layer of dirt. Then we came upon a layer that is black plastic that was secured tightly around the body with duct tape. And you could see as the body is exhumed that you could see that it was a body. Going through the black plastic layer, the detectives found a clear layer of plastic that was even more tightly wrapped than the black plastic layer. And this also was secured with duct tape. After removing this clear plastic layer, there was JJ in there, and his hands, ankles were bound with duct tape. His hands in a semi-cross praying, display on about his stomach area. He was wearing his pajamas, and he was obviously clearly deceased, but there was no signs that he had survived the initial attack before being wrapped in the plastic. And after removal of the body from this shallow grave, there was nothing else of importance found in the grave. There was no notes, no nothing at all. There was speculation online that there had been other items found in and around the body. There wasn't. Now, again, this information comes from statements from detectives to the East Idaho News, Channel 5 ABC, along with testimony given in court by the detectives themselves. 7.5 feet away, in an area that Chad formerly called the Pet Cemetery, which was dug up in a much larger capacity because it was spread out over a large area of the ground there. They found the remains of a cat, a dog, other small animals that had been buried quite some time before. No remains of a raccoon were found anywhere. In this large area that was approximately 7 feet by 8 feet of ground that was disturbed and dug up to find all of the remains of Tylee. Her body was scattered in several different little piles amongst there, along with bones of hers that were still found in the fire pit itself. Her head, or partial skull, was found in what was remainings of a tin and aluminum bucket, along with large chunks of coal, that probably wood that fell in and amongst the skull itself. Tylee was clearly very rudely dismembered, and she had to be dismembered in a violent manner. They do believe she was dead before she was dismembered. There wasn't there was not any signs on the bodies, where there may have been defensive wounds on her hands or arms, where there were tool marks that showed that she may have been alive, and that was how she was originally killed. They believed that she was drugged and then probably suffocated or strangled, but that's just the two detectives who had spoken out believe that's what maybe that's what more of their hope is, that she died beforehand. But she was clearly dismembered. As to the rumor of cadaver dogs hitting on several areas there at the farm of Chad Daybell, The cadaver dogs were brought to the estate several times. The day of their actual findings of the remains, and they were also brought there on another occasion, at least one, possibly two other occasions, I should say. And just because the cadaver dogs hit on more than one area doesn't mean that Tylee was dismembered somewhere else and then brought to the fire pit. She most likely was dismembered next to the fire pit. But they could have hit on the scent of either where JJ and Tylee's bodies were laid out at some point in either the barn or other parts of the area, moving them from one point to another where they were before burial and before dismemberment and burning. But Tylee was definitely dismembered and burned. And it takes a real monster to be able to dismember a body in such a manner. Now, the timestamps for Alex being at the farm, do they coincide with the dismemberment and burning of Tylee and burial of JJ? It's impossible to say exactly when JJ was placed in the ground in such a manner, but you can bet they have tested everything from the tape for fingerprints on the tape itself, which a lot of people do not realize that your fingerprints stay on the actual tape itself, and or you may have shed skin cells as we all do in normal process of our lives, or hair follicles. If they find anything that reminds of Chad's fingerprints in the tape or whatever, they certainly can charge him with a whole lot more. But again, was Alex the one who did it? The timestamp from the cellular company places him there on certain dates and certain times, but the date of dismemberment and burning of Tylee is going to be the important one. Does it place him there when the neighbors saw the fire? Does it place him there when they saw the fire and they saw the events that night but did not know what was going on? Does it place him there at the time after the text message from Chad to Tammy to say that they were there to he was there to burn wood and get rid of a raccoon that he had shot? Does it place Alex there afterwards? And is there any chance that Chad has an alibi for anywhere else other than being there at that time? This is something that will come out in the case later on. And hopefully we will get answers then, for sure. But right now, speculation is all over the place on the guilt of one of them or the other. But in my mind, and the minds of a lot of people, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow are just as guilty as Alex Cox. Should they get 15 and a half years or 12 years and then be out? Should the state of Arizona file murder charges against Lori in the death of Charles Vallow? Should both of them be charged with the murder for JJ and Tylee? Should Chad be charged with the murder of Tammy? The state of Idaho and Arizona are keeping everything tightly under wraps, especially when it comes to Charles Vallow and Tammy Daybell. They certainly know a lot more than what we know right now. But in the meantime, speculation is running wild, and people are coming up with all kinds of theories to support their view on everything about this case, but leaving the facts alone. Facts are not something that people really want to hear. But you do, and I do. And I would rather deal with the facts than the speculations and lies that are rampant around this case. So thank you. Thank you for joining me today. I hope I've been able to give you some closure and give you some information that was useful on this case. If you have additional questions, please put them down below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Stay well. Stay safe out there. Until next time.